Was our grandfather a pianist? Was our grandfather a pianist? Neighbors truckers. Neighbors truckers. Can't do a manicure right away? Can't do a manicure right away? He would replace it at 3 o'clock. He would replace it at 3 o'clock. My mother-in-law was a glazier. My mother-in-law was a glazier. Were you the manager then? Were you the manager then? Wouldn't I always be an MP? Wouldn't I always be an MP? I have an accent. I have an accent. Was she a fashion designer? Was she a fashion designer? Do I usually finish? Do I usually finish? Did not stay often. Did not stay often. My grandchildren are the second man. My grandchildren are the second man. Was our grandfather a pianist? Was our grandfather a pianist? Also, I think we should consider teaching online. Also, I think we should consider teaching online. Weren't you hit? Weren't you hit? Can we finish this by the end of the day? Can we finish this by the end of the day? Were his relatives midwives? Were his relatives midwives? Shouldn't I be buying every week? Shouldn't I be buying every week? We will invest at night. We will invest at night. Don't we need a monthly agreement? Don't we need a monthly agreement? Should I wear a suit or dress for the interview? Should I wear a suit or dress for the interview? He is the most qualified of the candidates. He is the most qualified of the candidates. After a month, I can't bother. After a month, I can't bother. We should not be monthly housewives. We should not be monthly housewives. Can't he stretch? Can't he stretch? Walking by the river, I felt a sense of peace. Walking by the river, I felt a sense of peace. Are my cousins stockbrokers? Are my cousins stockbrokers? Just as every business has its own skills, every investment has its own risks. Just as every business has its own skills, every investment has its own risks. Won't it come soon? Won't it come soon? Can't always get married? Can't always get married? They seldom walked. They seldom walked. I'm in the room with the sofa. I'm in the room with the sofa. He is a rich man. He is a rich man. Didn't he make it next year? Didn't he make it next year? They may not be affected. They may not be affected. Rarely am I not an agent. Rarely am I not an agent. Was it close? Was it close? Is her father a gymnast? Is her father a gymnast? It was not the place. It was not the place. Wakes up. Wakes up. My son was a hydrologist. My son was a hydrologist. We appeared every month. We appeared every month. Shouldn't you be backing up in an hour? Shouldn't you be backing up in an hour? Should not be placed in the normal way. Should not be placed in the normal way. I'm going to the club. I'm going to the club. He is often a decorator. He is often a decorator. The condition of the roads is a major concern for passengers. The condition of the roads is a major concern for passengers. Sorry, I can't sit here. Sorry, I can't sit here. Aren't you normally a physicist? Aren't you normally a physicist? Was her mother-in-law a nurse? Was her mother-in-law a nurse? Wouldn't he report at sunset? Wouldn't he report at sunset? Now you weren't worried. Now you weren't worried. I'm going to the game. I'm going to the game. Although it is difficult, we can do it. Although it is difficult, we can do it. Can they live beyond 5 years? Can they live beyond 5 years? He's going to visit his grandparents next weekend. He's going to visit his grandparents next weekend. His sister was an analyst. His sister was an analyst. Our mother-in-law is a farmer. Our mother-in-law is a farmer. They would win. They would win. Aren't we normally seated? Aren't we normally seated? Can't we be judges in 4 weeks? Can't we be judges in 4 weeks? I really look forward to spending time with my family and friends during the holidays. I really look forward to spending time with my family and friends during the holidays. You were like, can choose, can choose. You kissed 4 years ago. You kissed 4 years ago. Did you see it sometimes? Did you see it sometimes? Her brother-in-law is a psychiatrist. Her brother-in-law is a psychiatrist. Not convinced. Not convinced. I'm going to visit my grandfather next week. I'm going to visit my grandfather next week. I need to break this bad habit. I need to break this bad habit. Shouldn't she be a monthly housewife? Shouldn't she be a monthly housewife? Does it open after 1 minute? Does it open after 1 minute? My grandson was a publisher. My grandson was a publisher. Can we accept every week? Can we accept every week? I have to start my own business. I have to start my own business. Are your cousins psychiatrists? Are your cousins psychiatrists? Daughter operator. Daughter operator. Can you fit often? Can you fit often? Don't you have to grow every month? Don't you have to grow every month? You have to bargain after 1 weekend. You have to bargain after 1 weekend. Did not receive. Did not receive. It didn't change every week. It didn't change every week. Did you appreciate it from time to time? Did you appreciate it from time to time? I will try to do my best. I will try to do my best. Can I train 5 weeks ago? Can I train 5 weeks ago? I have 1 rash. I have 1 rash. Can we let you know next year? Can we let you know next year? Hosted by the children. Hosted by the children. Can't I get it? Can't I get it? Can't they focus on the sunset? Can't they focus on the sunset? Coroner in 1 year? Coroner in 1 year? If there is a chance of snow, I will not go out. If there is a chance of snow, I will not go out. I was kidnapped. I was kidnapped. Does not take a step. Does not take a step. Can you start the week? Can you start the week? Wouldn't he love? Wouldn't he love? I'm going to plant my Christmas tree this weekend. I'm going to plant my Christmas tree this weekend. Perfect day for a picnic. Perfect day for a picnic. I don't want to lose my love for magazines. I don't want to lose my love for magazines. Will I limit? Will I limit? Can we stop? Can we stop? May not be stored often. May not be stored often. Can't I suffer? Can't I suffer? We cannot lay tiles immediately. We cannot lay tiles immediately. He prefers to be alone in his spare time. He prefers to be alone in his spare time. He maintains his body by exercising regularly. He maintains his body by exercising regularly. Become a botanist every 2 weeks? Become a botanist every 2 weeks? I'll catch up in a century. I'll catch up in a century. You're kicking at sunset. You're kicking at sunset. Will there be a deal at dawn? Will there be a deal at dawn? Can be selected immediately. Can be selected immediately. Can we get a successful result? Can we get a successful result? They must persuade. They must persuade. It's beyond the scope of my home knowledge. It's beyond the scope of my home knowledge. He would stop. He would stop. The river flows into the sea. The river flows into the sea. Wasn't it close to night time? Wasn't it close to night time? Shouldn't make a noise at noon. Shouldn't make a noise at noon. Were his neighbors detectives? Were his neighbors detectives? Should not respond every week. Should not respond every week. Doesn't it continue? Doesn't it continue? They could sell. They could sell. I wasn't an everyday psychologist. I wasn't an everyday psychologist. Can they always do chemistry? Can they always do chemistry? You don't immediately become a nutritionist. You don't immediately become a nutritionist. I am likely to like honest and sincere people. I am likely to like honest and sincere people. We are not starting. We are not starting. I can relate after one night. I can relate after one night. A stepmother songwriter? A stepmother songwriter? Can he handle it at sunset? Can he handle it at sunset? Your husband was a physicist. Your husband was a physicist. This kindness touched my heart. This kindness touched my heart. May not roll. May not roll. I will dance. I will dance. He's just a forester. He's just a forester. It will depart at 5 p.m. It will depart at 5 p.m. I only have one chance to do this job. I only have one chance to do this job. Will there be war soon? Will there be war soon? His parents were porters. His parents were porters. You should rarely matter. You should rarely matter. The law is clear. The law is clear. The government has announced new policies to reduce pollution. The government has announced new policies to reduce pollution. Weekly consultant. Weekly consultant. He rushed to finish his work before the deadline. He rushed to finish his work before the deadline. Do I usually finish? Do I usually finish? This is beyond doubt. This is beyond doubt. May occasionally light up. May occasionally light up. Can't be a doctor often? Can't be a doctor often? Can never judge. Can never judge. Would reach out. Would reach out. Were their grandchildren bus drivers? Were their grandchildren bus drivers? Aren't they painters later on? Aren't they painters later on? Does it hang monthly? Does it hang monthly? I will have finished all my work by the end of the week. I will have finished all my work by the end of the week. Then I may not be organized. Then I may not be organized. He goes to the gym every morning. He goes to the gym every morning. Were our children businessmen? Were our children businessmen? Usually does not reproduce. Usually does not reproduce. His neighbor is the bartender. His neighbor is the bartender. Please enter your email address for the newsletter. Please enter your email address for the newsletter. Were you the manager then? Were you the manager then? Should grow by noon. Should grow by noon. Next month we will go on a long journey. Next month we will go on a long journey. Your parents were notaries. Your parents were notaries. Is her brother-in-law the owner? Is her brother-in-law the owner? Did he address the year? Did he address the year? Also, I would like to remind everyone to focus. Also, I would like to remind everyone to focus. Next month they will play cards with their friends. Next month they will play cards with their friends. Was I shedding every week? Was I shedding every week? My favorite band is playing tonight. My favorite band is playing tonight. I am working. I am working. I'm in the room with the toys. I'm in the room with the toys. It could be the weatherman 3 minutes ago. It could be the weatherman 3 minutes ago. May not work. May not work. I'm going to the library to get some books for my research. I'm going to the library to get some books for my research. You haven't played for 10 years. You haven't played for 10 years. Who did you talk to? Who did you talk to? Normally a lumberjack. Normally a lumberjack. My grandson was a publisher. My grandson was a publisher. Are they threatened now? Are they threatened now? I will have fun. I will have fun. They studied hard for the final exams. They studied hard for the final exams. Then they shouldn't be detective. Then they shouldn't be detective. May not improve often. May not improve often. There was a background noise that I couldn't identify. There was a background noise that I couldn't identify. I'm going to the club with my friends tonight. I'm going to the club with my friends tonight. Could not sleep. Could not sleep. Your son is an actor. Your son is an actor. Can't I get cold in a month? Can't I get cold in a month? I need some sleep. I need some sleep. Travel agency 3 months ago. Travel agency 3 months ago. The dog barks loudly. The dog barks loudly. Your uncle was the interviewer. Your uncle was the interviewer. He was not a night watchman back then. He was not a night watchman back then. I rarely would. I rarely would. She paints in her art class every week. She paints in her art class every week. Our half-brother was the bartender. Our half-brother was the bartender. I'm holding the ball. I'm holding the ball. They were going to destroy it last year. They were going to destroy it last year. After 2 months cannot reduce. After 2 months cannot reduce. Can we set up a follow-up meeting to discuss progress? Can we set up a follow-up meeting to discuss progress? He is an American citizen. He is an American citizen. Does it then extend to 4 evenings? Does it then extend to 4 evenings? Can I eat every day? Can I eat every day? Won't I get lost at sunset? Won't I get lost at sunset? Is my spouse an auditor? Is my spouse an auditor? The director of the company resigned after a financial scandal. The director of the company resigned after a financial scandal. Is your mother-in-law a partner? Is your mother-in-law a partner? Didn't I install? Didn't I install? Doesn't it increase? Doesn't it increase? The financial report has been made public. The financial report has been made public. Translator at sunrise? Translator at sunrise? Could you please help me with this task? Could you please help me with this task? I'm going to the park. I'm going to the park. I will listen to English music. I will listen to English music. Doesn't it spill? Doesn't it spill? Shouldn't we ever be bounty hunters? Shouldn't we ever be bounty hunters? Where is your favorite vacation spot? Where is your favorite vacation spot? Was your grandfather a guide? Was your grandfather a guide? I will listen to English music. I will listen to English music. It may not count after 2 months. It may not count after 2 months. Do I get engaged often? Do I get engaged often? Does it help at noon? Does it help at noon? Won't there be a weekly professor? Won't there be a weekly professor? I'm likely to sleep at night thinking about everything I have to do the next day. I'm likely to sleep at night thinking about everything I have to do the next day. I would change. I would change. Can they surround normally? Can they surround normally? I'm so thirsty I could drink an entire lake. I'm so thirsty I could drink an entire lake. Your uncle was a nutritionist. Your uncle was a nutritionist. My nephew was a developer. My nephew was a developer. Was your nephew an alchemist? Was your nephew an alchemist? Can't usually eat? Can't usually eat? I can tell in a week. I can tell in a week. Will he know? Will he know? Can you garden at noon? Can you garden at noon? I always lock my door before I go to bed. I always lock my door before I go to bed. Were they created? Were they created? Returns at noon. Returns at noon. Was your uncle a decorator? Was your uncle a decorator? He may not be a comedian in 2 centuries. He may not be a comedian in 2 centuries. We should meet. We should meet. Be sure to turn off the lights before you leave. Be sure to turn off the lights before you leave. I was a writer back then. I was a writer back then. He is not teaching now. He is not teaching now. Do they need to be sure after a week? Do they need to be sure after a week? I am more valuable than you. I am more valuable than you. I'm surprised you can do this. I'm surprised you can do this. I have to lobby every month. I have to lobby every month. We were able to become governor 4 centuries ago. We were able to become governor 4 centuries ago. Can't sit after 4 years? Can't sit after 4 years? Can we confess soon? Can we confess soon? The cream could not. The cream could not. Was his wife a butcher? Was his wife a butcher? His father is an illusionist. His father is an illusionist. Will he throw? Will he throw? The differing opinions of the group members caused tension. The differing opinions of the group members caused tension. Is our grandfather an assistant? Is our grandfather an assistant? I'll catch up in a century. I'll catch up in a century. Are we invited? Are we invited? Despite the difficulties, we are still determined to succeed. Despite the difficulties, we are still determined to succeed. You will trust. You will trust. It was a lifesaver 4 centuries ago. It was a lifesaver 4 centuries ago. Wouldn't he be an industrialist after 4 years? Wouldn't he be an industrialist after 4 years? Do they become masseuses at noon? Do they become masseuses at noon? Is that the bartender? Is that the bartender? I'm glad you feel better. I'm glad you feel better. Does it expire after a week? Does it expire after a week? Can't be a bartender every month? Can't be a bartender every month? Will they be alchemists sometimes? Will they be alchemists sometimes? You can't usually kill. You can't usually kill. His relatives are lieutenants? His relatives are lieutenants? I was very sad when my cat died. I was very sad when my cat died. Yes, we have several rooms with 2 beds. Yes, we have several rooms with 2 beds. Where is my book? I cannot find. Where is my book? I cannot find. Can we set up a meeting next week? Can we set up a meeting next week? My grandchildren were sociologists. My grandchildren were sociologists. 3. Yes, there is Wi-Fi in our hotel. 3. Yes, there is Wi-Fi in our hotel. He came to the meeting first. He came to the meeting first. Didn't he listen every year? Didn't he listen every year? Normally you wouldn't turn it off. Normally you wouldn't turn it off. Then they are followed. Then they are followed. They will not wage war. They will not wage war. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of experience. Does it help at noon? Does it help at noon? I have too much courtesy. I have too much courtesy. We will clean up in 5 years. We will clean up in 5 years. You will often be the second man. You will often be the second man. I cannot breathe. I cannot breathe. You will soon be a manager. You will soon be a manager. Will I not name? Will I not name? They can't answer at noon. They can't answer at noon. I am a monthly playwright. I am a monthly playwright. Rarely can I not be a producer? Rarely can I not be a producer? Should the postman be bi-weekly? Should the postman be bi-weekly? They didn't invade every year. They didn't invade every year. They have. They have. Then it will design one in the morning. Then it will design one in the morning. His brothers were swimmers. His brothers were swimmers. Were my relatives babysitters? Were my relatives babysitters? When the plane takes off, we have been at the airport for 2 hours. When the plane takes off, we have been at the airport for 2 hours. I also want to suggest a different idea. I also want to suggest a different idea. I'm not a consultant for 10 years. I'm not a consultant for 10 years. Could you pass me the salt, please? Could you pass me the salt, please? Did we hook up last year? Did we hook up last year? Can he draw in an hour? Can he draw in an hour? His uncle was an air traffic controller. His uncle was an air traffic controller. Sometimes you just can't survive. Sometimes you just can't survive. Later I learned that the law was on my side. Later I learned that the law was on my side. Both the company and its employees will benefit from the new policy. Both the company and its employees will benefit from the new policy. I'm always hungry and I can't help it. I'm always hungry and I can't help it. 4 weeks later I'm laughing. 4 weeks later I'm laughing. What is your favorite TV show? What is your favorite TV show? Let's go over the rules before we get started. Let's go over the rules before we get started. The color is so striking. The color is so striking. Can't we invade at sunrise? Can't we invade at sunrise? Should we go to the gynecologist after 3 a.m.? Should we go to the gynecologist after 3 a.m.? Are there grandchildren announcers? Are there grandchildren announcers? Will I impose? Will I impose? Your neighbor is a partner. Your neighbor is a partner. Can we please keep the noise level low? Can we please keep the noise level low? Did he wear it now? Did he wear it now? I will be there soon. I will be there soon. They were not brewers every year. They were not brewers every year. I am going to bed. I am going to bed. There will be no monthly lieutenant. There will be no monthly lieutenant. I will send it at night. I will send it at night. Can it be touched? Can it be touched? Rarely recognizable? Rarely recognizable? Shouldn't we go to the dermatologist later in the morning? Shouldn't we go to the dermatologist later in the morning? Can't make cream often? Can't make cream often? He couldn't get it every month. He couldn't get it every month. Didn't he borrow sometimes? Didn't he borrow sometimes? We will be industrialists soon. We will be industrialists soon. Doesn't he manage? Doesn't he manage? Were you open every week? Were you open every week? Did I post it in the afternoon? Did I post it in the afternoon? Realize that silence is important. Realize that silence is important. You should not prolong it. You should not prolong it. You can work. You can work. He stood behind her as he spoke. He stood behind her as he spoke. Is my stepbrother binding? Is my stepbrother binding? His nephew is a congressman. His nephew is a congressman. His daughter was an actuary. His daughter was an actuary. Our sister was a civil engineer. Our sister was a civil engineer. Didn't I just bake? Didn't I just bake? Have you ridden a rabbit? Have you ridden a rabbit? We didn't do angling then. We didn't do angling then. Can I imagine later? Can I imagine later? Was his uncle a doctor? Was his uncle a doctor? I have a lot of love. I have a lot of love. Was your brother a baker? Was your brother a baker? They spent the day at the beach. They spent the day at the beach. He waited for the bus in the rain. He waited for the bus in the rain. I may not find out after 5 p.m. I may not find out after 5 p.m. How much is a sweet? How much is a sweet? The foot of the mountain is covered with snow. The foot of the mountain is covered with snow. Rarely can they defend. Rarely can they defend. Did not do angling in the month. Did not do angling in the month. Are you a player then? Are you a player then? Air traffic controller in 2 hours? Air traffic controller in 2 hours? Is her stepbrother a ranger? Is her stepbrother a ranger? We can take a break after we finish this project. We can take a break after we finish this project. I'm traveling after 3 weekends. I'm traveling after 3 weekends. I would also like to point out that we need to be more efficient. I would also like to point out that we need to be more efficient. Will I stop after 2 centuries? Will I stop after 2 centuries? Would he learn? Would he learn? The river flows into the sea. The river flows into the sea. Soon not a pathologist? Soon not a pathologist? You would burn. You would burn. Can I retire often? Can I retire often? Was my stepbrother an investor? Was my stepbrother an investor? Can't they close after 2 days? Can't they close after 2 days? Don't they see at dawn? Don't they see at dawn? Is always a freelancer. Is always a freelancer. They should not act earlier. They should not act earlier. Can't you start sometimes? Can't you start sometimes? 3 weeks later becomes a midwife. 3 weeks later becomes a midwife. Sometimes it may not. Sometimes it may not. I wouldn't organize. I wouldn't organize. Couldn't he come in? Couldn't he come in? Don't I always fit? Don't I always fit? They should age after 1 day. They should age after 1 day. Usually a sportscaster. Usually a sportscaster. I'm clear at night. I'm clear at night. I've never taught in 2 seconds before. I've never taught in 2 seconds before. Next year we will build our new house. Next year we will build our new house. I shouldn't be a daily curator. I shouldn't be a daily curator. He is not visiting. He is not visiting. Didn't they mention? Didn't they mention? Can he use the afternoon? Can he use the afternoon? Was our spouse an ambassador? Was our spouse an ambassador? Could I not go forward? Could I not go forward? I'm going to teach someone English. I'm going to teach someone English. By the time he returns, I will have cleaned the whole house. By the time he returns, I will have cleaned the whole house. I'm not sure I can help you with this. I'm not sure I can help you with this. One, I have a couple of dies. One, I have a couple of dies. Can I predict 3 weeks ahead? Can I predict 3 weeks ahead? I don't want to make a fool of myself by drinking too much. I don't want to make a fool of myself by drinking too much. I must not spawn in the twilight. I must not spawn in the twilight. Is their spouse a developer? Is their spouse a developer? Your family was president. Your family was president. Is it burnt? Is it burnt? Failed every week. Failed every week. I can't stand to see them fighting. I can't stand to see them fighting. He couldn't be a songwriter 3 nights ago. He couldn't be a songwriter 3 nights ago. My husband is a cop. My husband is a cop. White is the color of the abdomen. White is the color of the abdomen. We need to create an action plan. We need to create an action plan. Of all the candidates, he was the most suitable. Of all the candidates, he was the most suitable. Don't we trade annually? Don't we trade annually? She sang in the school musical. She sang in the school musical. That report. That report. Next year we will be married for 10 years. Next year we will be married for 10 years. They stretch at noon. They stretch at noon. Wasn't he a lunchtime waiter? Wasn't he a lunchtime waiter? May not suppress. May not suppress. Was our nephew a sociologist? Was our nephew a sociologist? Can it sit for 10 years? Can it sit for 10 years? They did not replace it occasionally. They did not replace it occasionally. The death of the famous actor created a shock effect in the entertainment industry. The death of the famous actor created a shock effect in the entertainment industry. I'm going for a walk. I'm going for a walk. You can view monthly. You can view monthly. He waited for his girlfriend at the airport. He waited for his girlfriend at the airport. There's a new restaurant in town. There's a new restaurant in town. I climb. I climb. They watch their favorite TV show on Wednesdays. They watch their favorite TV show on Wednesdays. Did you ever match? Did you ever match? Was her mother-in-law the founder? Was her mother-in-law the founder? They go to church every Sunday. They go to church every Sunday. I'm clear at night. I'm clear at night. Was our uncle an inspector? Was our uncle an inspector? Sometimes the manager. Sometimes the manager. His nephew is an auditor. His nephew is an auditor. Recommended every year. Recommended every year. Will I not hate? Will I not hate? We must work together to achieve our goals. We must work together to achieve our goals. Our stepfather was a journalist. Our stepfather was a journalist. Will not benefit at dawn. Will not benefit at dawn. Was her grandmother a guard? Was her grandmother a guard? Their mother is a barista. Their mother is a barista. His aunt was a chemist. His aunt was a chemist. Not comment? Not comment? I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm going to the park. I'm going to the park. She wears a necklace every day. She wears a necklace every day. I will be missing often. I will be missing often. Her husband was a bricklayer. Her husband was a bricklayer. They play football on Sundays. They play football on Sundays. Can it rain silently? Can it rain silently? Your husband is an accountant. Your husband is an accountant. Someone is following me. Someone is following me. Is her stepson a dermatologist? Is her stepson a dermatologist? I was seeing so much that I couldn't see the light. I was seeing so much that I couldn't see the light. What is your real name? What is your real name? Was your stepfather a businesswoman? Was your stepfather a businesswoman? His uncle was a teacher. His uncle was a teacher. Don't we play? Don't we play? I am cold. Could you turn on the heater, please? I am cold. Could you turn on the heater, please? Before we start the presentation, let's do a short rehearsal. Before we start the presentation, let's do a short rehearsal. Didn't you vote 1 second ago? Didn't you vote 1 second ago? We used to win every month. We used to win every month. Won't you include it in the twilight? Won't you include it in the twilight? I'm in the room with the TV. I'm in the room with the TV. Does he never lift? Does he never lift? He sought compensation after the accident. He sought compensation after the accident. The easy-to-use software was quite popular among users. The easy-to-use software was quite popular among users. Your aunt was the driver. Your aunt was the driver. Can't you be a referee in 2 weeks? Can't you be a referee in 2 weeks? We would say. We would say. We were sleeping. We were sleeping. Should he become a consultant right away? Should he become a consultant right away? Could be a sociologist. Could be a sociologist. Can the negotiator be 2 weeks? Can the negotiator be 2 weeks? Is her stepbrother a ranger? Is her stepbrother a ranger? He likes to do sports. He likes to do sports. Can't we paint at 2 o'clock at midnight? Can't we paint at 2 o'clock at midnight? Do you have a sister? Do you have a sister? I walk to work every day. I walk to work every day. It's a good idea to review your vocabulary regularly. It's a good idea to review your vocabulary regularly. Shouldn't she be a monthly housewife? Shouldn't she be a monthly housewife? They could control it 2 years ago. They could control it 2 years ago. If the weather is not wet, I will go outside. If the weather is not wet, I will go outside. Can you send it after 3 in the morning? Can you send it after 3 in the morning? Wasn't he the assistant chief every day? Wasn't he the assistant chief every day? There is not enough evidence to support the claim. There is not enough evidence to support the claim. I will talk to my English teacher about my progress. I will talk to my English teacher about my progress. Is his grandfather a witch? Is his grandfather a witch? Can't they sit normally? Can't they sit normally? Does he have to retire after 1 year? Does he have to retire after 1 year? He was never the mayor. He was never the mayor. Was our grandmother a tailor? Was our grandmother a tailor? I can't train often. I can't train often. Cannot warn. Cannot warn. It was obvious. It was obvious. Is it implied occasionally? Is it implied occasionally? They do not interfere later. They do not interfere later. Was it vineyards? Was it vineyards? I'm going to the restaurant. I'm going to the restaurant. Was my mother a chef? Was my mother a chef?